Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get this evening's library series workshop started. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Valerie Herrera. Pronouns are she, her, ella. I am the new climate equity specialist for the City of San Diego's Climate Action Team. The Climate Action Team is housed under the Sustainability and Mobility Department, and we are doing a number of different workshop series over the months of March and April. So today's workshop is going to be focused on moving around San Diego, transforming transportation. Just a quick rundown of what we will see today. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of Climate Action 101. So what is the Climate Action Plan? What is the climate emergency? And then we'll pass it over to our partners for mobility planning. We'll go over expanding mobility choices thereafter. We've got some folks here for Blueprint SD, Equity Forward, and we also have an external organization, Pedal Ahead organization, who will close us off. A little bit about the climate emergency and why climate action is important. As you all know, we are dealing with more and more extreme weather events. Think of things like flooding, heat waves, a drought, colder winters, and this is not to scare us, this is to make us aware, because this is the reality that we are working with of extreme weather events, and it's only going to get worse. So how do we mitigate that? We want to make sure that we are aiming to reduce our greenhouse gas emission levels. So I want to direct your attention to this graph here. If we look at the different colors, minus this green one right here, each of these colors up top represent the 6 strategies that you will find in the Climate Action Plan. And so each of these strategies together are aiming to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions and for us to reduce the overall amount. But if you see, the strategies up here only get us to a certain level and not to net zero. So we've got an additional strategy 6 that we know as emerging climate actions, really to open up space and opportunity for us to explore and go even further on how we can find solutions to climate change. Again, I mentioned those different strategies, so we'll go into these with a little bit of detail and some examples when you're thinking about them, just to break them down. Strategy 1 is decarbonization of the built environment. And so think about transitioning from natural gas perhaps to some sort of a electrified or clean energy option. That could be in buildings, in homes, that could be your stove, for example. Access to clean and renewable energy. For that one, think about like solar systems where we're generating power. Or even electric vehicles and having access to electric vehicle charging stations across the city. Strategy 3, which is the main strategy we'll focus on today, is mobility and land use. So when we talk about this strategy, I want you to think about all the different ways that you get around San Diego and the region. So whether that's on the trolley or using your feet or with a scooter or driving your car, which we're trying to get more and more folks to get away from and use those alternative modes of transportation. Strategy number 4, circular economy and clean communities. Think about the organic waste bin rollout that recently took implementation, and everyone should be starting to receive those green bins to help us with that recyclable and cleaning communities. Also, food access, food connection, food waste is another big part of that strategy 4. Strategy 5, resilient infrastructure and healthy ecosystems. Think about green infrastructure, and that can be a really jargony word, so we'll break it down a little bit. Think about like parks and open space, taking care of and preserving our natural environments, our waterways, things like that. And then again, that last one, creating space to explore how we go even further with combating climate change. Just a bit on what is climate equity, which is a major focus and at the forefront of all of our minds as we're moving forward with addressing climate change. And so really, climate equity is that intersection between environmental justice and social equity. So think about quality of life, think about the daily needs, think about the things that you need to access throughout your day, whether that's food, some open space, some tree canopy, some community serving facilities, and of course our natural environment. And really, the purpose of climate equity is to highlight the communities that have been underrepresented or historically disadvantaged over time. And so the Climate Equity Index is the first of its kind, really, to be a tool that measures across the city those different levels of equity index. The equity index goes from 0 to 100. And so here in San Diego, we identify communities that are most vulnerable as communities of concern. So that means that the communities fall within the 0 to 60 threshold of the Climate Equity Index and are identified here on our legend as very low, low, or moderate. And you can see sort of those different colors here throughout the parts of San Diego that I'm speaking to the most. And really, truly, we're trying to attain full and equal access in these areas that we know have been sort of underrepresented for time, and to bring that equity level up to the other neighborhoods. A little bit more on how the city is addressing climate equity. There's a lot of different things going on right now in many different departments, not just in the climate action team. Again, the Climate Equity Index is one tool, the first of its kind, that we can look to and understand a little bit more what are those issues and challenges in our communities of concern, more so, but really throughout the rest of the city as well. We also have what we call our Climate Equity Working Group, which is a major part of our connection of external organizations. And this group is made up of many different, I want to say 30 to 40 community-based organizations that serve our communities of concern and throughout the region as well, through the city and county. This group meets every third Wednesday of the month from 10:30 to noon. And really, the whole focus of this group is to connect all these different community-based organizations, share ideas, information from the city side, from the organization side, and really break down those silos and move the needle forward together with our communities. Equitable community engagement is another major factor of our inclusion and how we're thinking about really shining light on those voices that we know traditionally have not been at the table and being able to integrate those voices into the work that we do and inform our processes. And then lastly, I want to highlight the Climate Equity Fund. This is funding that the city has dedicated specifically to fight climate change, and specifically mostly in our communities of concern. So a lot of the Climate Equity Fund will go towards projects that are already active that might need a little bit of a push to completion, and we can be able to supplement that. And we've got a little under 9 million, I believe, to work with. So right now, the leadership in the city, that includes our CAP team, the Department of Race and Equity, the Department of Finance, Engineering and Capital Improvements, and a couple of others, are looking at all our lists that we've received from our council offices to understand the prioritization of how we can allocate that funding. So that is a process that's going on right now, and something that will be included in the overall budget for FY24 or fiscal year 24. And now I'm going to pause here before I pass it over to our partner, Phil Traum, from Mobility Planning, just to see if the audience has any questions on the Climate Action 101 portion. All right, and with that, we'll have Phil go ahead and come up.
Thank you so much, Val, and thanks everyone for coming out. I know it's like a weeknight and tough to make it out, so really appreciate your interest in this topic. I am really passionate about mobility. I am the program manager overseeing long-range mobility planning at the City of San Diego, and I'm going to talk to you a lot about how we're actually moving all this work forward, this climate action planning in terms of the mobility lens, broad brush. So what we heard during this climate action plan engagement, really it was a cross-section of all kinds of topics, right? And as Val talked about, but we heard in terms of mobility, there was a real need for transit and pedestrian bicycle safety improvements, air quality, and that's a lot of that can relate to transportation, and then lack of access to healthy food insecurity, and access to sustainable mobility solutions. So really where transportation fits into this strategy 3, as Val talked about, there's a mobility and land use connection, but really there's so much of this is incumbent on us really understanding mobility and mobility solutions moving forward. So that's where the intersection is. So we're embarking on what we call a mobility master plan. So previously, we really looked at mobility sort of intra-community and by mode. So there was the bike master plan, the ped master plan. We're looking across the entire city for both projects that can be built and also programs that can support other types of mobility, especially in this age of the smartphone and technology. So we're really looking at programs and policies, programs and projects, as well as policies and how to get it all done. And the result, we hope, will be a healthier, safer, and more sustainable transportation network. So the sustainability side touches on climate action, but safety looks at the Vision Zero initiatives, if you've heard of those, and also how we address healthy mobility and access to healthy foods and food insecurity. So back to those CAP objectives. So some of those, the drilling into that strategy 3 from the Climate Action Plan, we have the Mobility Master Plan and how we're looking at prioritizing the most vulnerable users first. So that's looking at walking and rolling, biking and micromobility down through transit and shared vehicles and electric vehicle infrastructure. And also looking at our roadway network, our existing roadway network. We're not building new roads, we're just repurposing them, making them safer, making them workable and usable for all modes. So that's complete streets. And performance metrics, in addition to hearing from the public, we're looking at data resources too. There's a lot out there that we can use to leverage in terms of providing better solutions and maximizing what we have and doing that all better. So that's part of what mobility looks like in terms of this strategy 3 from the Climate Action Plan. So as I mentioned, we're inheriting a lot, right? There's a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you have been to events where we were either building out a plan or understanding a project. So that's what all these covers are really meant to showcase. Where we have Vision Zero, we have bike master plans, you have some specific modal plans, also different communities like Canton, Kearney Mesa, stuff like that. So we're looking at all of this together under one big mobility umbrella and how we solve mobility challenges. And so a little advertisement, we do have a survey that if you can stop by our table in the back at the end and share with us your mobility challenge. I know we already had some great conversations in this space too, where we can start saying, well, yeah, my community, it's great to get around my community, but how do I get to my school? How do I get outside? How do I cross the freeway if I have a bike, right? So please tell us about that stuff, and that's all going to inform this mobility master plan and challenges how we can overcome, again, through projects, programs, and different policies. So thinking comprehensively is really key to all of this. So stakeholder engagement, we're linking the planned infrastructure with near-term efforts. So this is a way to look at, what's the best project first through mobility master planning. Working better as a city, how we work across departments is part of this effort too. Again, using and accessing dynamic information and big data, measuring attainment for climate action goals, and engaging everywhere, including in communities of concern. So that's kind of part of what our stakeholder engagement is linked up with the same stakeholder engagement principles from the Climate Action Plan. So this plan that we're working on, this is just a quick outline of what we really mean and our intentionality behind it. Bringing that vision for comprehensive mobility, where we are now, where do we need to go, how do we get there, bringing engagement and public feedback along with data resources, getting detailed projects understood and evaluated in a methodical way, and finding a way to an action plan to implement all this. So this is really, again, citywide, what's the most bang for the buck? That's the mobility master plan. Where we are kind of in the process here is focusing community engagement. So the library series and the climate action plan is perfect timing for this work. So again, kind of an advertisement for the mobility master plan. But we want to get feedback and learn about where mobility challenges are. Then we'll be identifying and defining projects to overcome those mobility barriers and solutions, and then work through the prioritization process. And we hope this will be an ongoing effort, similar to like SANDAG does the regional transportation plan. We want to do this sort of in a reoccurring fashion to keep it updated over time. So that is really all about sort of long-range mobility. Again, long-range planning with near-term actions, kind of another way to think about it. So I think with that, if there's any questions, happy to take them. Or again, advertisement, please see us in the back and fill out a survey, and we'd love to just chat with you about any mobility challenges or solutions or ideas you have. So, yeah.
Do you have a counterpart at SANDAG?
Yes. There's a team there that I used to actually work with that does long-range planning for the region. So yeah, that's in the planning department, and they put out the regional transportation plan every 4 years, and they look out to sort of the same time frame that we're looking at. Yeah. Climate Action has goals and targets around 2035. That's also an important year for Sandag and for the region in terms of GHG and air quality. So a lot of synergy there. So yeah, we meet monthly with them actually. Yeah.
Isn't the 4-year plan at Sandag the transportation improvement program?
That's slightly different. Yeah, and we can talk. I can give you all kinds of information about that. That one is actually the programming document. So that's where sort of long-range planning thinks about how resources can be aligned. The RTIP, the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, is where dollars are theoretically in the bank. So you're actually assigning them and building projects. And in that way, conducting environmental analysis and alternatives. The long-range planning is thinking more strategically and lining projects up to then be sort of programmed and put in the budget.
So there's a 4-year plan that doesn't have money, and there's a 4-year plan that does involve money.
So the 4-year plan actually it has that as a lookout. So the 4-year plan goes out like 30 years. It's similar for us too, because the city has budget. But speaking to that effort, it's a 4-year plan that looks out 20 plus years, in this case like almost 30. And it addresses the first 5 as being the programming document. But there's a deeper, that's the RTP. But it's sort of the whole effort. Okay. And then our effort at the city will be the mobility master plan underneath the climate action, and Suchi is going to provide some great land use like the general plan work. That will also go out to 2050 and address areas that we can actually program at the city with city budgeted dollars. So yeah, I know it gets confusing with all the different layers.
How far will the city budgeting dollars go in time?
Yeah, so those, the budget is done annually for the city, and that's kind of but there's a projection out 5 years in a similar fashion. Okay. That's through the Department of Finance, but yeah, actually very similar now that I didn't really think of that. Yeah, so great questions. Yeah. Okay, with that, I'll introduce Crystal Ayala, and she'll be sharing with you expanding mobility choices.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being here on such a beautiful sunny day. We really appreciate it. I'm Crystal Ayala. I'm program manager under the Sustainability and Mobility Department, and I oversee our curb and parking efforts. While Phil kind of really focuses on the long-range planning efforts, I like to think of our team as focused on more short-term initiatives and services that are already out there today. Val talked about the importance of addressing the impacts that the transportation sector has on climate action, and that's because it's a huge emitter of many of our pollutants and really impacts air quality. In addition to that, though, addressing mobility and improving mobility citywide has so many other tangential benefits, whether it's about improving our health, creating healthy communities, ensuring that there's a safe way to move around your community, reducing fatalities and accidents caused by vehicles, and then also what mobility means in terms of access, not only in terms of access to jobs and education, but that upward mobility that the mobility system truly has in regards to being able to access medical services. All of you who came here today, you got here through a mode of transportation, so it's really incumbent for the city to take an active role in improving mobility so that you all can have access to all of these essential services. Phil briefly talked about the mobility loading prioritization with the climate action plan that was just adopted last year. We took a really close look at addressing and prioritizing the modes that are most vulnerable and that we need to address first. So as Phil mentioned, we started by looking at first our vulnerable road users, so making sure that we are developing projects and putting forward policies that are providing a dedicated and safe space for people to walk, for people to roll, whether that be on a bike, a wheelchair, scooter. Also addressing space for public transit for people to be able to ride transit in a way that's convenient and accessible, and then all the way up to electric vehicles. As we know, the industry is headed towards electrification of electric vehicles, especially with the state's call to have all electric vehicles by 2030, I think it was. And ultimately, where this gets us is some of the pictures that you're seeing over here. It gets us to a city where there are a lot of diverse choices for you to move around your community. You can choose to drive if you'd like, but if you want to ditch the keys and take a bike or a shuttle, it's really about providing a variety of mobility or choices for the kinds of trips that you are looking to make, whether that's going to work, the grocery store, or endless possibilities. So some of the efforts that our team is working on is exploring how we can leverage technology, to Phil's point, to improve mobility choices in the city. Many of us with technology have really been able to access transportation in a different way, and also information on transportation. How many people use Google Maps regularly to figure out when the transit route, when the bus is coming? So all of that is really important, and so we wanted to better leverage this technology to, again, provide greater mobility choices in the city. And one of those programs is through our shared mobility device program, aka scooters. Around 5-6 years ago, scooters and bikes were literally dropped on our curbs, on our corners. If you lived here, you witnessed it, you saw it. And we really learned a lot from that. When that happened, we were really, as a city, left to sort of react and clean up our streets and provide a program that was going to be safe and conducive to riders really benefiting from the service. So last year, we took forward a comprehensive program to City Council and now have a new model for how we envision shared mobility devices to operate in the city. So we have 3 active contracts, and there's a cap on how many scooters and bikes are available in the city, and that helps to ensure that we have an organized and effective system. And we were working with the vendors to ensure that there are an adequate amount of bikes and scooters citywide. So really focusing on improving access to these devices, not only in our tourist areas, but expanding that citywide so that if you are looking to take a scooter to catch transit, or if your local health clinic or grocery store is a mile away and you just kind of want to hop on one of these, you have access to that. And it's been a really successful and popular program. Maybe some of you have ridden it. We're seeing a lot of people use the scooters for short trips, so right around that 1 mile threshold. So if it's just far enough past walking, we're seeing a lot of folks decide to use scooters to move around their community. And that's having a really huge impact on our carbon footprint as a city. So it's a really important program. But its success really relies on us as a city not only having a program in place and these contracts with these vendors, but also making sure that we have that supportive infrastructure that's going to make sure the program is successful. So we've worked with our crews to create corrals for the scooters to be safely parked. That helps ensure that it's not conflicting with sidewalks, it's not getting in the way of wheelchair users or impacting transit in any way. And we're also starting to roll these out in areas where we are expanding bike facilities. Cities really improving and expanding the facilities citywide, and so as we're doing that, we're taking a close look at where we can add more corrals and where we can start to see more scooters come to light so that they can benefit from all of these investments. And equity is also a really important part of this. Technology has really kind of transformed how we access technology for transportation. Not everyone has the benefit of having a smartphone, which a lot of these technologies rely on. So we're working with the vendors to improve their equitable programming, provide low-cost options for folks who may not have a credit card to use the services, or may just want to kind of test the service before signing up for the actual service online. That's one example. We've also started to explore other mobility options that can help you move around your community more sustainably. And we are actively involved in deploying what we're calling neighborhood electric vehicles. The neighborhood electric vehicles are these small little vehicles you see on the screen here. If you've been downtown, you would have seen these teal little shuttles roaming around the city. And they are low-speed vehicles. They're all electric, and they don't travel more than 25 miles an hour, which means that it's a really convenient and comfortable option for some of those shorter trips, again, within your community. There's several pilots in the region. I mentioned the service in downtown, but we're also seeing our neighbors in National City, Chula Vista, and Oceanside also explore how they can use these shuttles to help people move around their communities, especially in areas where transit may not be as frequent or convenient, or to help people get closer to those transit stations. So I talked about the downtown service. That was the first, the city was the first in the region to pilot this technology. We're really excited that it's still a really popular service. We launched this service back in 2016. And what's really unique is that we were able to use parking meter revenue. So folks who are driving downtown and parking downtown are actually helping to contribute to expanding sustainable and alternative modes of transportation. So a really great way of how we can leverage some of this funding and reinvest that back into the community so that we're providing greater options than just driving and parking your car. Since the service launch, we've had over 1 million passengers be served on this service. It's really successful with some of the residents that live downtown. A lot of our visitors who visit San Diego in the summer or Comic-Con love using the service as well. So we're really excited that it's been doing so well. And so excited that we've decided to launch another pilot. We've been partnering with SANDAG, the Regional Transportation Planning Agency, to together co-launch a new service in Pacific Beach. So we're hoping to launch this summer, and this all-electric shuttle service will, provide connections to and from the Balboa Avenue Transit Station. I'm not sure if you've had the chance to ride the Blue Line extension up to UCSD. So the shuttle is going to provide a lot of access to and from that transit station, and will also improve coastal equity. So folks who may not have access to the beach on a regular basis can now take the trolley and hop on the shuttle to connect to and from the beaches. Now, just because the service is launching in PB does not mean that it is only for PB residents. This is a citywide pilot. And so we have community engagement active right now. You're able to scan this QR code. It'll take you to our website where we have a short survey that helps us understand if you travel to PB, what you do in PB when you go there, and will help us understand what kind of trips the shuttle could be making or serving. We also have a little interactive map that allows you to drop routes and points on the map. So if you have key destinations in PB you like to visit or would like the shuttle to pick you up or drop off, that's also an option. And we're regularly attending farmers markets. So if you happen to be in PB, the dates are on our website, but we'll be there answering any questions and really looking to use this pilot to see how we can continue exploring other services in other parts of the community beyond just kind of the beach use case. And that's it.
Go all the way down to Mission Beach and the plunge and the roller coaster and all that?
We're still determining the service area. Right now we're starting with the broader Pacific Beach kind of community boundary as a start, really focusing on the connection to and from transit. And because there's already local bus services there as well, we want to make sure that this service is complementing what's already out there and not, infringing or conflicting with transit in any way.
How does it work, these new electric vehicles?
The one downtown, the pilot is still in the works, but the one downtown is you use a smartphone app. You download the Circuit app, that's the vendor, and it'll recognize that you're downtown. And just like an Uber, if you used Uber, it'll ask you how many passengers are with you, where you are, and it'll go ahead and pick you up. The downtown service is free, and you can also indicate if you need a wheelchair. So if you do, they'll send a wheelchair accessible vehicle over to you to pick you up. But because we know that not everyone has a smartphone or may not know if you're a visitor what app to download, you can also wave it down. So if you see one, you can kind of wave it down and it'll pick you up and take you where you need to go. Yeah.
Do you all have a draft of the MMP and when will it be released?
Phil?
Yeah, Commissioner. Yeah, we should have a draft this summer, and we look for adoption this coming fall. So yeah, right around the corner.
Like in June or?
Yeah, probably the technical work will be done in June. Realistically, draft circulated probably the summer months, and then adoption we're projecting like September, October. Yeah,
And then I see Blueprint SD up there, but so maybe that will be incorporated in that presentation. But will the plan mobility networks within community plan updates be a part of the MMP?
Yeah, in the future, yeah, I think that, so how it works now, each community plan has an update cycle. So we're bringing together all those projects under one one analysis first, sort of collecting them as like a central repository. And then we're looking at some of the most needs first in disadvantaged communities. And that would come out in the plan along with the broader policies and programs, like citywide initiatives. Over time, we look to sort of have everything in there and it be more symbiotic with the community plans. They'll be a little bit separate to begin with, though, because it's a big effort. That's a great question.
And then one more question. Could you talk more about what you all are doing to prioritize communities of concern? I know you talked a bit about equity, but within your presentation, could you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, in terms of some of our mobility projects? Yeah, for sure. In terms of the scooter program and the all-electric shuttle, we're always thinking about how we can make sure that these services are accessible, both in terms of accessing the technology, so having options for smartphone users or non-smartphone users, but also making sure that there's accessible access to the service. So having dedicated space for curb pickup and drop-off, making sure that there's supportive infrastructure. And then in terms of deployment in other areas, we're actively partnering with SANDAG and community-based organizations and sometimes going after grants ourselves to see how we can bring in some state and federal funding to expand piloting of these services in other communities. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Suchi?
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Suchi Lucas. I'm a senior planner with the planning department, here to give an overview of Blueprint SD. And so as we're thinking about transportation opportunities, we also want to be thinking about opportunities for more homes and jobs by these transportation investments. So Blueprint SD is a proactive approach to create an equitable and sustainable framework for growth, including more homes, jobs, and better transportation options for current and future San Diegans. And so there are 4 key objectives of Blueprint SD. So one is to refresh the citywide general plan. And so the citywide general plan is a set of policies intended to guide citywide growth for the next 20 to 30 years. And it covers a variety of topics, including land use, mobility, but also other things like economic prosperity. And you'll be hearing about environmental justice with our Equity Forward team as well. And so we also want to update our general plan to reflect our latest thinking around transportation investments, working with our partner agencies like SANDAG, but also some of the local level efforts that Phil and Crystal have been talking about. And then we also want to make sure our citywide growth strategy is really aligned with the goals of the Climate Action Plan, especially how it relates to mode shift and getting more folks the opportunity to bike, walk, and take transit in a way that's safe, affordable, and convenient for their day-to-day needs. And then we know that growth comes with impacts. So we want to analyze these impacts with a comprehensive lens and look at impacts to schools, parks, and things of that nature. And so we have a video that will play.
San Diego is vibrant and thriving, proud of its rich and eclectic history, and ready to embrace a sustainable future. To preserve the lifestyle we love, we need an updated plan to guide our continued growth, one that tackles our housing crisis and reduces the harmful pollution entering our environment. Our transportation system is the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions. One reason is because we build housing far away from jobs, schools, grocery stores, and our other daily needs. As we plan for our future growth, we also need better, more climate-friendly options to get to where we live, work, and play. Blueprint SD is a proactive effort using the best available data and modeling tools to both identify and predict where we should build housing and improve opportunities for taking transit, walking, and biking. The result will be a clear framework to guide San Diego's future growth and for meeting our climate goals. The general plan, which is the city's guiding document, will be updated to reflect this strategy and provide a framework for each one of San Diego's unique neighborhoods, which are shaped through community plans. A key part of Blueprint SD is creating a prioritized list of housing and transportation policies that will be incorporated into the general plan to support our growing city while maintaining our much-loved quality of life in San Diego. Learn more about how you and Blueprint SD can ensure a vibrant and thriving San Diego for all of us.
a video overview of Blueprint that's available on our website. And if you take the time to go to our website, we also have a survey that's currently in progress, and we're collecting input. And so we've identified a series of sustainable steps forward that the city can take to update its general plan, and we'd love to hear from you all. The survey asks for your opinion on what should be priorities as we think about our future growth. Should it be trying to work with our partner agencies on faster transit times? Should it be working with employers to make sure that we have incentives in place for maybe an on-site daycare or gym or cafe to help alleviate the need for multiple trips and things of that nature? So feel free to take the survey. We have a laptop in the back as well as a QR code if you want to scan it with your mobile device and take it with your phone. And also, I'll be in the back, happy to answer any questions as well. And so I'll pause if anybody has any questions right now.
All the data you guys are using to make this plan, are you making that publicly available? So for example, is it going to be publicly available how many people are riding the bus at a particular time on a particular route? I know that data is not available. Also, more data on the bike accidents.
So there's a lot of different sources of data that are available publicly that we pull from, as well as gathering our own. And I'm wondering if maybe Phil and team, you want to weigh in on some of the mobility-related data sets?
Yeah, and those will be coming into, that's a great question. Like the safety data is part of our Vision Zero portal. So we're pulling that in. I think that was the second half. And the first part, the transit boardings, that actually is it's collected by the regional transit agency as part of that's the consolidated component of what SANEG does with MTS. So we'll be looking at those resources too. I think those are public. I know there's the trolley, the TREP reporting, and there is the bus fleet management plan that has that information. So yeah, we'll be trying to get that information from the transit planning team, and that's actually another SANEG resource.
And then I can speak a little bit to the data in the map that was in the video. So we'll also be compiling a summary of what is the data that is going into that map. We want to hear from you first if there's anything that's potentially missing from the map that we should incorporate. And then we'll take that into consideration in our updates going forward.
How can we tell you what's missing if we don't know what data is in the map?
So we do have a fact sheet online that summarizes what are the current inputs into the draft map. And so I'm happy to also go over it in more detail too.
I've spent quite a bit of time with the college area map, and it shows big purple blob where the university is, which is the bulk of the dense population, if you will. But where the trolley is away from the university, there is no purple. So I'm very confused on how it's taking into consideration the transit.
Sure. That's a great observation. And so we can get into that in a little bit more detail if there's a specific area that you're interested in. But one of the other things that goes into the map is the connection to major employment centers. So it could be that there's a transit line there, but if it's maybe a lower service frequency or not as well connected, there's a gap. And so the map also takes that into consideration, but we can go into it in more detail.
Yes, you actually. Thank
Sure.
you.
Are you all planning to make Blueprint SD mandatory for current and future?
The general plan is a policy document, so it's a guiding document, and it's intended to inform the community plan updates. And so we'll have more detailed policies as we get closer to Blueprint adoption. That'll specify, what is the relationship going forward between the citywide vision and then the community plan updates.
Okay. And then what's the timeline for parallel? Is it parallel to the college area?
So Blueprint is actually currently scheduled to be out this summer, with a draft of the general plan amendment package. And then that is intended to inform the community plan updates, which will follow.
What's its status for its environmental impact report?
So that'll be circulated around the same time, so this summer.
Is it happening now?
Yes, both are being prepared concurrently, the general plan amendment package as well as the environmental document, and they will be released together.
So it's out now, the environmental impact report's being done now?
It's being prepared now, but it's not available yet because we're still going through our different analyses.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paola Boylan. I'm a senior planner with the planning department, and it's great to see you all here and to see all our partners. So one of the things that the planning department is working on is we actually launched this really great initiative called Equity Forward, and it's kind of trying to take a lot of initiatives that we have going on within the department that are focused on, advancing equity throughout the city in these different ways. And so we're going to start with the environmental justice element, and that's something that, similar to Blueprint, is currently being prepared internally and will be released later, hopefully later this summer. But the idea is that this is going to be a new chapter, a new element that's being added to the general plan that's really focusing on, advancing environmental justice. With a focus on what will be called environmental justice communities, which are kind of going to be working in parallel with communities of concern, disadvantaged communities, so on and so forth. So that's the policy, right? Like that's the guiding document that we're adding this to. And then part of that is also like the planning of it. So environmental justice is one thing, and then there's the Choice Creek Watershed Regional Park, which is really looking at the Choice Creek area and looking at a plan for developing that area to be more accessible to people, having it be a green space that people can really enjoy, and having it be like a regional park for San Diego as a whole. And also part of that is the citywide trails master plan, which again is looking at trails throughout the city. So policy, then we go into planning, and then we go into a little bit of analysis. So that includes project prioritization. So what projects do we really want to, focus on that are really going to, advance a lot of these efforts? So that's part of it. And what's really great about that is that one of the things that the city really wants to do, and the planning department is helping take a leadership in, is really getting community engagement in the project prioritization so that we can, always be developing like better practices, best practices as we move these things forward. And also the Parks Need Index. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? That's why we're trying to roll it up all as one comprehensive thing. So the Parks Need Index is really focusing on, the parks throughout the city. Where do we need, to focus more resources, as well as making them better for the community, really. And then finally, process. I don't know if my colleagues want to speak to this, but really one of the things that we're working on is an inclusive public engagement guide. So we talk about engagement, but we want to learn more about the ways that we can come out to the community and, really, gather feedback. Is a Monday afternoon at the library like one of the ways that we can communicate? But are there other events going on throughout the community? And we're trying to put something, the planning department is really taking a leadership role in not only developing something that puts together best practices for our department, but really across the city so that we can, have a guide so that, anyone across the department can really look at what was the feedback from the community. And so there are, again, some additional, we'll have some additional information coming out around that. And that's really focusing on the process, as well as partnering for progress. That one's a really exciting project as well that is partnering with all of these things. We know that there's community organizations that and nonprofits and business improvement districts that are really trying to invest in the community, and we want to make sure that those things can happen more easily with the city. So we're trying to figure out what are the linchpins, what are the things that people are trying to do in the community that maybe they need, a little bit more hand-holding, or maybe they need to know what department to connect with. We're trying to get a little bit more information about that so that we can make it easier and a more streamlined process for people to connect with the right people across the city to make these projects happen. So that's what Equity Forward is trying to do. Just move equity forward as much as possible, from the policy to the implementation. We want to make sure that it's happening. So there's a lot of stuff happening here, and we don't have to get too much into the details, but it is going to be, moving forward throughout the year. This gives you a project timeline of, all the different stuff that's going on. So we have, developing of policies and plans, as well as we're in our engagement phase, where we're really going to be trying to get more feedback, come out to the community, do events like this, as well as, any other great things that are happening throughout the community. And then eventually, later on in the year, we're really hoping in the summertime to roll out the environmental justice element, and as well as, what else is going on? Yeah, the Parks Need Index, Choice Creek. We're trying to package all of that together to reduce engagement fatigue, so that we're not coming out and asking you about the same thing or asking you at many different events. And then eventually, hopefully, at the end of this year, fall through the winter, we'll be going to City Council and doing that more traditional, process to get things adopted. So thank you so much. I'll, if anybody has any questions about those things. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Rodrigo, who's working on some really great stuff himself.
So I'm Rodrigo Rodriguez. I work with Pedal Ahead. I'm a program coordinator for a local 501c3. It's kind of answering some of the questions what we need right now, and as we're trying to go green. And we focus on three major things: mental health, physical health, environmental health. Everything what we're trying to accomplish, we're able to do this and show it through our program. So I'm going to move through the slides, okay? Pedal Ahead, I told you who we are. So Pedal Ahead, I'm not going to read it. We help create lifestyles by socially conscious transportation, meaning taking account for what we want to do and change. We offer a solution through a program, through our pilot programs that we do when we link up with different communities and government organizations and entities. So this is more of a source from the people's perspective. You ask yourself sometimes how you want to make a change and do a movement in your community, in an environment. I'm one of those, I could attest. I own a restaurant. This was something that was dear to me. When I got offered the position, I joined in. I said, not only am I going to talk about trying to do something, I'm going to do it. And you got an average Joe in a company that's making a change and making history right now as we speak. And we want to work with everybody in the communities, looking for new community-based organizations. And here we started with, Nathan Fletcher in 2020. What we did is launch 400 e-bikes. There was no incentive to it. It was only to the lower income communities. But this was during COVID. Everybody was stuck. Some of us are still suffering from stuff with COVID. And this was an answer. And with this answer that the founder did in Nathan Fletcher, they were able to see that there was a need. So my biggest thing is saying a closed mouth don't get fed. So you got to ask for help, sometimes. You got to want to have that help, and this was an answer to that. So here, we see someone, they're working on the bike, but this is true stuff. This wasn't mocked. We actually do this. We're the ones who go talk in your community. We get you involved from your community, and we bring help. Not only do we just offer a bike for an incentive, but we teach you how to perform daily duties on your bike. Stuff that you might not know it's going to be useful in somewhere else. You become mechanical, you become handy, you become self-aware. So this is an example of that. And again, you'll hear me focus on this. This is the examples of mental health. When you get on a bike, you go ride a bike because you want to. You want to feel happy. So it's common sense. It's gratification. Right away, it's going to make you smile. I'm out free. It'd be a bike, car, but this way, we're trying to move towards, the e-revolution. We're trying to go green. So this is an example of that. The environmental impact. Right away, you get on your bike, it be powered or it's powered by your feet. You're making an impact already. Zero emission. Yes, we talk about batteries and all that, but what about the house that it's being, or the apartment complex that it's being plugged into is on solar? Zero emissions again. Those are things that we need to be accountable and ask before we start requesting more. Physical health. It promotes aerobic exercise. Could you read on? I don't have to read it. But more or less, I have an e-bike. My bike has a throttle. So you see, my metabolism hasn't kind of worked with me. So the bikes that we offer in our e-bike program, they're pedal assist. If you want some power, you got to give it too. So that's the way our program focuses on that. So I'm going to move to the next one. So here are some involved communities. There's been new communities. If your community is not on here, I probably didn't visit you because I'm new, 6 months in, but I'm coming. I'm going to come knock on your door. Talk to me. If you don't have an answer for me, point me to someone that wants to talk, that wants to incentivize their community. They want to incentivize their government entity in that region where that answer. Just collaborating. This is a chance to really see what government's money could do if it's given to a source that has the same view as everybody else. So if you see this right here, I heard you guys asking, everybody's talking about data. So I'm going to answer data right now. Our data is proprietary. So the data we get is from the different entities that we collaborate with. They could specifically cater this to their needs and to where their wants are. And we could provide that. And all our program is public record. But what we do, we focus on is being discreet, being private to our pilot program participants, because they're making history. They're doing this through a loan-to-own program. So that's the information that we're going to provide depending on which entity contracts us. Can we go next one? All right. So these are some testimonials. They look pretty convincing, but it's true. This individual in the middle has rode 3,000 miles. We saw some information earlier. The average scooter ride was about a mile. I could show you data right now, nothing against that. We could show you data. Our participants started 2 weeks ago. A week and a half, 2 weeks ago, they've already gone 85 miles. They're replacing car trips. They're replacing that, that emissions problem that we have. They're doing something about it right now. People that live in apartment complexes, you lose your spot, you're parking way down the way. Not only is it further for you, it could be dangerous depending where you're at. These are these answers to all that. Being able to be free, mobile, and hitting every three that I spoke about at once. These are the participants that have been in the program. The guy to smiling to the right is my boss and founder, Ed Clancy. He's the individual who came up with the idea. And we ask ourselves, I'm just talking about bikes, but how do these individuals acquire these bicycles, right? We want to know that. How do you qualify? Well, we don't service anybody but the lower income communities. The 400 percentile of poverty, which is under $50,000. Do I only give them to people in that threshold? No, you could be 0 to 5,000, you can make no money. You just have to have somewhere to store the bike and be able to acquire annual insurance. And the majority of individuals could be on government assistance. There's people that could help. There's other entities within communities that could help them acquire that insurance, but that's just something that they have to do on their own. Reason we need accountability. In order to make change, you need to make change in yourself. So you need to be able to support that. Because not only is it just, it's not a free program. How they pay for this is riding miles. It's a pilot program. They join the program for 2 years. They sign up and they say that they're going to ride 100 miles a month. That's nothing for these people. At the end of the program, they fill the requirements. They get to keep the bike. We give them a $2,000 bike, helmet, everything to put them on their way. And we teach them. So this is about our program. These are some collaborators. There's more. If your name's not on there and you want to collaborate, come visit me, scan our QR code, give me your card. Again, I'll be, hey, what's up? So that's what we'll do. And that's it. Any questions? See, I try to give you all the answers first so you could limit the questions. See, something I learned. But no, ask me something.
Is there any way that your experiences with the people who are using your bikes are going to feed back to the mobility people
So to answer that, and I can only answer it to an extent because I'm on contract with some of these individuals. And it's true. We have a pilot program that was initiated for Sandag on November 22nd. You might have seen my first TV special. I was on TV. But I was scared. But the main thing what I could get to is the information we get in that slide, I go back, it's proprietary. They did a pilot program to service all the county of San Diego. And it was your job to be attentive if you wanted to make a change, is to see the application, get online and apply. Within an hour, 1,500 applications came through. Our system just kind of stalled. We had to pick 125 people, 75 people back up, so 200 people, this 125 participant program. Who vets them? Me. I vet them. You're dealing with real people. We're going to give you all of us just like we want everything from the participant, so we can get everything to whoever hires us at the moment. We also got contract with the state through CARB. We got the CARB program. We're going to be distributing the e-bike voucher initiative in 16 different districts throughout the state. The one good thing I want to bring up about that, guess where the modeling is going to happen at? San Diego. San Diego is the model for this initiative to move forward, not only throughout our region, the state, and every other state and city across the nation that wants to collaborate. We own that recipe, and you're going to see it. So that's the information they're going to get. Due to the participants, we're just going to protect their identities, but they're biking out there. They're biking out there for all of us. So these changes could come. So it could be, what about Petalhead? Remember when they did this? Then that's what the question we could ask. But we need to get to those 2 years, right? But before those 2 years are up, we invite any other entity to start a pilot program, be it small. Just see, if you want to see a change, we're the people to see. Anyone else? Nope. I made it.
I just want to say thank you for your patience. I'll wrap us up here very quickly because before you leave, we do want you to go around the room and have a chance to communicate and meet and talk with our different organizations and agencies that are with us today. So again, just looping back on the Mobility Master Plan questions, and this isn't just for the Mobility Master Plan, be thinking about this about mobility in general. Again, we want you to tell us about a mobility challenge you're experiencing regularly, and where is that challenge located? Is it, a street, a neighborhood, and we can help you to kind of dwindle down the specifics. Help us understand what it would take for you to be able to use your car less. And then how can we improve mobility overall in the city of San Diego? And we've got a really great worksheet for you all to fill out for us as well. We've got some citywide maps as well as a zoomed in map of the City Heights community. So those are also available for you to help us understand where those challenges are. And then a little bit of what we want to leave you with today on what steps can you take to reduce transportation emissions. Again, alternative modes of transportation, we can't say that enough, right? And our job is to make it as safe and comfortable and convenient as we can for you. So walking or biking for shorter trips, taking that scooter if you can, talking to your friends and family, right? Maybe having some opportunities to go out and try the trolley for the first time. I'm brand new to the city of San Diego, and I will be honest, I have not ridden the trolley yet, but my colleague Melissa here is a San Diegan that's been helping me to understand the lay of the land. So talk to your friends and family. Just try and consider taking alternative transportation for one time a month, one time a week. Anything really is a great contribution. And then finally, I want to leave you with our upcoming library workshop series. We've got our Climate Action Plan 101 coming up in the San Isidro Library this coming Saturday. Melissa will be spearheading that for us. We've got Zero Waste and Circular Economy on Saturday, April 8th at College Rolando Library. 2 energy workshops coming up, identified here in that gold yellow, and then one more, resilience. So we have this information up front and with the library staff, and you guys can take some flyers with you or scan that QR code. And with that, I just want to thank you for your time. Please don't leave. Come talk to our partners and have a lovely evening. Thank you again.